So thank you for joining us, Emily. We know what a jam-packed career you have as a successful racing car driver, including V8 supercars. You've had multiple podium wins. You are a speaker, a panelist, and a finalist for Cosmopolitan Sportswoman of the Year in 2017. And you've built and raced your own car, and you are not only an ambassador for Girls on Track, but also for VERTO Women in Trades. And we couldn't be more excited to have you as part of the team.
Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been racing for 9 years now. I started off in Hyundai Excels. So I didn't come from a motorsport family whatsoever. I just kind of dived head deep straight into the world of motorsport without knowing anything. So I started off, I went out and I bought a Hyundai Excel off of Gumtree, and then a race suit from eBay for $25. And
Oh,
then
bargain.
yeah, it was actually a go-karting suit. It probably wasn't the
Oh.
best to be using, but anyway, I didn't know any different. And then I got a Audi special buy helmet for $79.95, which probably also was
Oh,
not the
baby.
best to insure my head with. But that's kind of how I just started. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just know that I wanted to race. So I went out, I bought the items, uh, bought a AU Falcon Ute, hired a trailer, and then just took it to the racetrack and started racing. It kind of wasn't only until qualifying that I kind of realized how, I guess, how serious everything can be on the racetrack in terms of safety and just competitiveness and stuff like that. But it was something that I kind of really took on board, the competitiveness. I like the competitiveness of motorsport. So that just kind of came naturally to me, I guess.
Mhm. There's nothing that you can't get at Aldi.
Exactly, right? Audi special buys.
So when you were younger, what did you want to be?
Well, I actually remember that I wanted to become a singer, which didn't not come to fruition because I'm actually a terrible singer. So that's I'm glad that I never kind of was that person on Australian Idol pretending, thinking that I could sing when I actually couldn't. So there's no videotapes of that. Um, yeah, I didn't really know what I wanted to do apart from that. And when I kind of realized that I wasn't a good singer, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wasn't too good at school. Like English and maths were really not my strong points at all. I was a terrible reader, and still maths I can't figure out. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought that I wanted to just jump into a business and work the way up a corporate ladder. But when I was working in a bank when I started racing. I was working in a bank and just kind of realized, well, I could do anything that I want with my life. My job was very much replaceable if I didn't turn up the next day. Um, so I was like, well, why don't I live life the way that I want to live it? As long as I'm not hurting anyone and not breaking any rules, breaking barriers, yes, but not breaking rules, then, I need to do what I want to do with my life.
How did you get into motorsports?
So I was at the story goes, I was living by myself at the time. I just moved to Sydney. I was working at a bank in their call center, and I, it sounds a little bit sad, but I was sitting there one day, and just like that's when I realized my job would be replaceable before. Yeah, if I never made it to work for any reason, then the job would be replaced quite quickly. So it was then that I started thinking, okay, like I need to do something that I like, that I'm passionate about, rather than just working at a call center. And I went to the movies and I saw this movie by myself, and it's called Hit and Run. Now I'm pretty sure that this must have been a flop at the box office, because every time I tell this story, no one has heard of it. But it's actually a really funny movie. So it's got Dak Shepard in it and Bradley Cooper. So it is a good movie. It's probably like one of the last like really funny comedy movies. But there is a car chase in the movie, and as I was watching, this like lighter, this spark was trying to spark up inside. And I remember that same feeling of when I was a little kid going, I think I was like between 6 and 8, and flicking through the TV, and I saw a Gold Coast race on the TV, and it was Gold Coast. It was an aerial view of these cars trading and swapping positions, and I knew that I wanted to go there as a driver. I didn't want to go there as a spectator. I knew that I could control these cars and how the drivers were controlling. But back then, I watched on, and there was no females. It was all males, and very much like NRL and AFL back in the day, it was a male sport. Females just didn't do it, and if they did do it, they didn't do it at a competitive level of what the guys were doing. So when I'm watching this movie, I'm feeling this spark, and I'm thinking, okay, I want to become a stunt car driver. This is what I want to do, because I knew that that was the passion of driving, and I loved driving. The first book that I ever read from start to finish was my learner's book at 16.
I like
I
that.
just wanted to read so that I could pass the test, and I think that I would read it every single night. So I look back now at all like the little things, and I can see all those signs that pull me towards driving. And so when I walked out of the movie theater and I was like, okay, I'm going to become a stunt car driver, I quickly got onto Google as soon as I got home and started Googling how to become a stunt car driver. As I kept reading on of how people become stunt car drivers, I realized that everyone had gone through a racing background. So it's like, okay, you can't just become a stunt car driver, you have to race. So then I was like, okay, next question. How do I become a racing car driver? And straight away, I wanted to go into V8 supercars. That's the pinnacle of motorsport. But you need like $1 million+ to race for a year. And that's something the bank, even though I was working at a bank, I didn't know how to rob the bank. So I wasn't getting that type of money. So I then started, I found the Excel series, and that was a starter series, which is like a grassroots motorsport series. And that's what I found on, the car that I found on Gumtree. Went, had a look at it, didn't really know what I was looking at, but I was like, this just feels right. Went and bought it, and then bought the ute, hired the trailer. I'd never driven with a trailer on, like I've never towed a trailer before or anything. So YouTube, I realized that YouTube is a great teacher, a great friend. And
tutorial for everything on YouTube.
yes, there is. So I learned a lot of, how to tow, how to drive a car up onto a trailer, how to tie it down and everything, all through YouTube and Google, because like I said, I didn't come from a motorsport family. So there was no one there to say, oh, do this. There was no guidance of anything. I literally just, did it by myself and just winged it.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask you what motivated you, if there was a particular event. I think you've actually, covered a few. Is there anything else that you could share with us as another event that motivated you in your career?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest motivators in my career. So in 2016, I'd been racing since 2014. So I was 2 years in, and there hadn't been it was the V8 touring car series, and it'd been running for 20 years, and no female had ever been on the grid. And I didn't I felt privileged to be the first, but it also was a bittersweet moment because I felt like I'd only just started my racing career. How has there not been females before me? So what started becoming a motivator was that you can't be what you can't see. And I almost didn't start racing because I didn't see any females on the big screen racing. So it motivated me that I never had that role model to start with. So if I became a role model to others, then I wanted to make sure that I was doing the right things, and doing things the right way to then be able to encourage more girls to come up, and also make sure that they didn't have to go through the steps that I've had to go through in order to have a successful career. So if I could take one of those steps off for someone else, then that's a plus, and that's been a big motivator.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well done. What's been the biggest challenge that you had to overcome it, and how did you overcome it?
So one of the biggest challenges I think that I've faced, is having a support network around. It's not something that I had coming into motorsport, so I've had to advocate a lot for myself. Um, Instagram and everything shows all the highlights, all the good times, but for every good time, there's probably about 10 bad times that you've had to go through in order to get that one little good thing. So I know now that having a support network around you is so, so important, because I would go to races. I would be in the Excel days. I'm going to races. I'm winning. I'm coming home with trophies, and I'm coming home to an empty home. I lived by myself. Um, I would have a shower and then go to bed. There was no one to celebrate the good times
Mm,
with, but that also meant that there was no one around to help talk about the bad times, go through the guidance and everything. There was in 2016, I was trying to race the V8 touring car, the supercar, and I contacted 300 companies trying to get sponsorship to do it, and I got 300 no's. So every day going in, cold calling businesses. After a week of trying to sell yourself and sell what the dream that that can happen, and how it can help change a generation, and just hearing a no, after like 4 days of hearing no, 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 you get pretty down on yourself. No matter how, you know, but how much belief that you have in yourself, you get like it's gonna put anyone down. And
mm,
so, you have to be, if you don't have anyone around you while you're finding that support network, while you're building it, you might have a few months, a few weeks, a few years where you are your only support network, and you just have to know what you need, in order to keep supporting yourself and then keep chasing after your dreams, because it's not worth giving up. That's the biggest thing. One of my things that I did, was every night I'd come home and I would lay on my bed crying and just say, "Nah, I'm quitting. I'm not doing it." But this was at like 9 p.m. at night. So there was no one, like I'm not calling someone at 9 p.m. at night trying to sell sponsorship. And but then the very next morning, I would at night set my alarm for an hour early to go in, an hour early to work, so that I could write down some more names and start calling up. But it was that mental switch off that I needed,
mm.
but at night, to be able to sleep and get a restful night and just say, "No, I'm not doing this anymore." But I knew deep down that I'm still gonna wake up and I'm still gonna chase that dream, because life's too short.
Yeah, absolutely. And picking yourself up and rebuilding yourself every
Mm.
time is, very draining. So, well done. It's
Yeah, it is.
amazing. Yeah. And when you've got a focus and a passion, it really does drive you more than what you realize.
And
I'm
resilience builds
resilient.
resilience, right? It's a muscle. So the more that you work it, the more like it's tough, but the more that you work it,
Mm,
the better you become at it. So you become a stronger person, and
yeah,
mentally, and
absolutely.
mental strength is really important.
Absolutely. What about your job? I guess gives you the biggest sense of satisfaction, that
Mm.
motivation.
Mm. Definitely winning
Drives you.
on the racetrack.
Yeah.
That's that's the biggest kind of satisfaction, because you I know the effort and everything that's gone into it. So winning on the racetrack is not a fluke. It's not just like, yes, some of it might be about right timing, but you had to put yourself in a position to get that win. So yeah, winning is very satisfying, but then also doing stuff like this and being able to share my story is really satisfying as well. So I hope that there's more questions that the audience has that I can help answer.
Yeah, being a good inspiration.
Yeah, definitely.
What advice would you give to your younger self at the
Ooh.
start of your career? I always love that question.
Yes. So this is a bit of a tough one because I've probably got a lot of advice that I would give my younger self, but in that same breath or same sense is that I only know what I know now because of the stuff that I've been through. And if I gave myself any advice, then the stuff that I've been through would change along the way. And I think, isn't that movie, The Sliding Doors or The Butterfly
Yeah.
Effect,
Yep.
right? Like, yeah, there's been some really tough times, but then there's been some really good times. And I wouldn't trade any of those good times for potentially something else. Like, yes, it could be good, but yes, it could be bad as well. So I wouldn't give myself any of the advice because I don't want to change anything, any one part of my life, good or bad. Because at the end of the day, I did what I knew best at the time
Mm.
and I'm satisfied with that.
It makes you who you are.
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly.
Um, this one's an interesting best answer to a question you've never been asked.
Oh, this is a good one. Um, I get a lot of questions about what it's like to be, a female in a male-dominated sport. Um, but the one question I think that I've never been asked is how I integrated myself into a male dominated sport rather than the feeling of what it's like or how I've been treated. It's how I integrated into the sport. I think that's something that is never really spoken about. So when I'm blonde. There's a few highlights in there, but it's half natural. But I've always been a blonde. And when I first went and bought the race car, I just thought, okay, I know that I'm going to be possibly the only girl in there, and I'm not after the attention of guys. I'm after the attention from what I can perform on the racetrack. So I knew that I would feel comfortable if I didn't want to be seen as this blonde bimbo type thing. I wanted to be seen as a peer. So I dyed my hair brown for the first year. So all the photos that I have for the first year is my hair brown. And that was simply something that I did to make myself just feel a little bit more comfortable, um, so that I could go to the racetrack and just be seen as a peer rather than anything else. And I always made sure that my clothing was sensible, high necks, loose pants, and all that stuff. Everyone has a complete different sense, and you need to do what you feel comfortable with. But for me, the best way that I thought how I could integrate myself into motorsport and be seen as the person that I wanted to be, was to do those few little things. And then once I got the respect from my peers and I got to know everything, I changed my hair color back to my normal hair color. I've come accustomed to just a bit of loose clothes and stuff like that. That's just my personality now. But that's the biggest thing, is that you going into anything, you need to do the things that you feel comfortable in doing.
Yeah, that's it. Who you represent,
Yeah.
who you represent yourself. Yeah. And gives you the confidence as well when you feel that, you are trying to earn respect, and,
Yeah.
achieve everything that you want to in the workplace. What motivates you to work hard?
Oh, um, this one might sound a bit cliche, but what motivates me to work hard is understanding that you only get one shot at life. I've always understood that, it's not a dress rehearsal, as they say, and you'll never be this young again. And I guess you'll never be this naive again. So going into motorsport, I didn't know the consequences. I was only focusing on what could happen, not the bad stuff. I was just like, oh, I could win races. I could climb the ladder and race V8 supercars. I was just so focused on all of this positive stuff that could happen and none of the negative stuff that can happen. And I kind of think like, in a way, ignorance is bliss, because I wasn't involved in motorsport growing up. I didn't know that there was a negative side or anything like that. So never being that naive again. I wish I was that naive again. But you'll never be this young. You'll never be this naive again. You'll never be, you can never live tomorrow. So you can never live yesterday again. And I didn't want to be, 85 in a hospital bed watching, the races or something and just thinking, oh, I wish I could have done that. I wonder if I could have done that. I want to say, I did that. No matter where I get to in my career, I know that every day I've tried to get there. I've tried to get to where I want to go. So if it stops prematurely, then it stops. But at least I know that, at 85 on my deathbed, I can, be looking up and going and telling stories. One of the, so there's two quotes. There's one quote that I came across when I was first Googling how to become a stunt car driver, how to become a racing car driver. And I still don't know. I've tried to find this and I still can't find it. But it's how to make the impossible possible. Start with what you know, use what you have, and the rest will follow. And I think that I've done my whole career as that. Is just, I started with what I had, I used what I knew, and the rest just followed. It's that taking that one step at a time. I don't know what the 10th step is, but I know what the first and second step is. And then once you do the first and second step, then the third step appears, and then the fourth step appears. And by the time, you're just there. And then the second quote is a quote that I made up. And it is, I would rather live a life full of memories to one day forget than live a life of nothing and remember everything. So that kind of refers to a bit of, in my family, there's, I just don't want to. I would rather live a full life and get dementia at the end of it and forget everything than, Murphy's Law. You live a life of nothing, you don't chase your dreams, and then at the end you have a healthy body and remember that, you had all these dreams and never chased it.
Very true. Look, I've asked quite a few questions, but what I'm going to do is open it up. If anybody has any questions that they would like to ask Emily, pop it in the chat box. Emily, how can people connect with you if they wanted to follow your career?
So I've got an Instagram, Facebook, and a TikTok. It's just Emily Duggan. I'm always, if you've got any questions, please ask them. But if not, and always, my DMs are always open if anyone's got any questions or anything like that. I think support and having access to people is really important. So I always make sure that my door or my DMs are open.
Emily, you are such a positive, inspirational person. This is my question. When you've obviously had so many challenges and you've had to overcome so many different adversities, what keeps you, I guess, what keeps you motivated, and what keeps you with such a good attitude? You've got, you've always smiling and just pushing forward. How do you maintain that attitude is what I should say.
Well, I haven't always maintained it. So I do say that I was born happy. I was born with a smile on my face. But, you know, you're not always going to have good days. And a couple of years ago, I did battle with some mental health stuff. I think through all of the stuff that I've talked about today, at some point it does get to you. And no matter how positive and how happy that I naturally am, when you get pushed down so many times, to anyone, there's a breaking point. But I knew that it wasn't healthy. So I reached out and I got support, and I spoke to people. So the biggest thing I think that it's just life. Like, you really have to understand that, we get older and older and life is not forever. If you've ever had anyone pass away, you understand that life has an end date. And in order to live to the fullest, you need to live it now. So if there's ever a time that you want to start something or anything, there's like gender, age, none of that matters. Society might try and put you into a box and say that, oh, this is this, that's what society wants is what society wants. You're not society, you're a person. Like, we're all just a person and an individual. And you hear so many people's stories. I don't think that you'll ever hear a successful story that doesn't start or have a struggle in it. So if you're struggling, that's probably a key point that you're probably going to make it and be successful. So I see challenges as something to overcome. My mind automatically goes to solution. As soon as something's come in front of me, it's like, okay, how do I get over it? How do I get under it? How do I go around it? And I know that that challenge is in my life, so that the next challenge is probably going to be even tougher. But if I can get through this one, then I'm more equipped to get through the next one. And there's been so many different things that have happened in my life that I know, oh, that had to happen, because now I know what to happen with this one, and this one's an even bigger challenge.
Yeah, in hindsight. I think it's just getting in and just giving it a go. No excuses. Just give something a go. You never know what will happen.
Such a great attitude to have.
We've got a question as well from someone too. Hi, Emily. Thank you for sharing your story. You have certainly shown what determination is about. My question is, you said you started in Excel racing. How did you learn your race craft? My daughter Jess is just starting her racing journey at 15. Awesome. And some of the places we have looked at for their junior development program have insisted that she have kart experience. But by the sound of your journey, you didn't venture down that path. So great to know that this is not a requirement. She is currently doing motor carners and carnacross to get car handling experience. Is there any program which you could recommend for her to get more experience? Thanks, Jess and Sharon.
Oh, that's so nice, Jess. Congratulations. So for me, I started at 20 years old. Everyone starts at 7 or 8 years old when their parents buy them a go-kart, and then they go off racing, and they've been racing since they were 7 or 8. I started very late. And I had so many people say, no, you can't do this or anything. So in terms of the car stuff, I had a license, and I did have that car, that car background in there, just simply driving on the road. I would say I live in Sydney, so the streets of Sydney can sometimes become a racetrack when you've got all that traffic around, but safely, of course. We stick to the
speed limits. Your stuff on Insta.
Yeah. But one of the things that I did was I used to, I don't know, I did it because it was the best thing that I knew what to do at the time, but I don't know where I got the confidence to go do this. So there's Eastern Creek racetrack that's got a go-kart hire place. And I would go there of like a Saturday or a Sunday or an afternoon after work. And I would go there by myself, and I would wait for groups of guys to come in I would wait in the car park and wait for groups of guys to come in, simply because I knew that they would always join in, like they would put people within another group if it was just one person or two people. And none of my friends wanted to come, so I was always by myself. And so I would see the guys go in, and then I would follow in and just say, for one person, and they would always put me with the group. And I always, for myself, I just wanted to compete against some other people and see where my times sat. And the guys wouldn't talk to me at the start, because it's a bit, now I look back, I'm like, that's a bit weird that this girl just was rocking up at the racetrack. But once they saw my lap times and that I was beating them or I was second, they would all be like, oh, what are you doing? Like, and so we'd have a conversation and stuff, and then we'd go out for the next one. So literally do anything, drive as much as you can, as much as possible, hire go-karts. It's cheap, and go out there and do it. Don't just do it like with you two. Go out there and try and find groups of people and go out with them. Go to racetracks, go to go-karting places. The Motorcarna stuff is excellent, because it's all, sometimes they're done on a skid pan, sometimes like it's a wet skid pan, sometimes I think you said Carnacross, sometimes like that's in the dirt and stuff. So you're already doing all the right things to get that car control and car skill up. So if you ever want to go karting and you live in Sydney, hit me up. I'll come for a little skid.
We've got one more question. What training did you have to complete to become a professional driver?
No training, to be honest. Driving and racecraft just comes naturally to me. I think I'm lucky like that. Lucky to find my passion and be good at it, other than the singing side of things, and not be good at it. So yeah, there was no training or anything. It is a competitive sport. So if you're not competitive in it, then you can't climb the ladder. If you've got a whole bunch of money behind you and you've got rich parents, you can do whatever you want. But I always had to rely on talent rather than money. So I owned the Excel that I had, and I had a ute and a trailer. So every chance that I could go to a test and tune day or a speed off the street day, I would go to. Wakefield Park is in Sydney, but there's like a whole bunch of other racetracks if you're in Brisbane or Victoria. But I would always go to any racetrack that I could find that had a speed off the street day or a track day, and I would just go down and race. I spent all my money. I lived on basically tuna, rice, and corn. You put that in a bowl with a little bit of hot sauce. It's delicious. But I didn't want to spend money on new clothes or anything like that. I just wanted to spend money on racing, and knew that the memories and everything, I'd never regret it. So no training, but hopefully along the way you find people that are willing to give you guidance and support.
Sorry, I'm on mute. We've got another question that's just come up here. So just bear with me. So Wayne says, what were your fastest lap times at Eastern Creek karting? I was racing with friends on Sunday. I was high 45 seconds.
Oh, hey, Wayne. Thanks for joining us.
I love that. Very good question. I cannot remember the last, I don't know. But again, if anyone wants to go to invite me out to go to Eastern Creek karting,
just go out to Peter Warren. That's where Wayne's from.
What'd you say?
Wayne, he's from Peter Warren. Just go out there.
Oh, love that.
And Sharon also says, thank you so much. It's great advice. We'll definitely meet you in Sydney one day. They're in Melbourne.
Oh, yay. Thank you, Sharon.
And Wayne says you've got an open invite.
Perfect. Look forward to it.
All right. Well, what we might do is start to wrap things up. Actually, there's another question that's just come through. Oh, no, that's all right. I think we've covered everything off. So I want to just say a massive thank you for everyone for coming, but especially to you, Emily. Your attitude and your insight is just amazing. It's so inspiring to hear your story and to see what motivates you and encourages you to keep pushing forward. And I think a lot can be taken from what you've, told us today. So thank you so much for sharing that.
My absolute pleasure.
So, and as Simone said at the beginning, we will have a recording available, and we will send out a recording to those that couldn't make it today. If anyone has any feedback or would like us to cover other topics on these webinars in the future, please feel free to reach out and let us know. Our next webinar will actually be held next on Tuesday, the 19th of March at 4:30 in the afternoon again. And we're really excited to welcome some of the Us in Trade community. They're a network of like-minded tradies who come together on a regular basis to share their experience, seek advice, and just uplift one another. And it's a great little community. We're going to chat about the importance of these type of networks, how they might benefit you, how you can get involved and maybe even start your own. So keep an eye out for that one. That will be connecting with like-minded tradies, collaboration, networking, and fostering meaningful connections. So we're really looking forward to that one next month.
And as Emily touched on as well, support is so key. It's so key. So these ladies are doing that for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, and have a lovely evening. And we look forward to you all joining us for our next webinar.
Thanks, Em. It's always a pleasure. Thanks
Thanks,
for your time, guys.
Bye. Bye.